Welcome to another edition of the Postgame Wrap. I'm Jarret Johnson, and Texas Tech fell to Baylor 88-73 in Waco in the regular season finale. So the regular season is over despite COVID, bad weather, ERCOT, whoever you want to say, whoever you want to blame, or whatever you want to blame. Despite all their collective best efforts to stop college basketball, stop Red Raider basketball from playing. Hey, they endured. They got the season done. The Red Raiders finished 17-9 overall. They finished 9-8, so they finished with a winning record in Big 12 play. They only got to play TCU once. I think if they would have gotten to play them twice, they probably would have won that game and would have finished with a 10-8 record, which was pretty close to what I think a lot of us expected the Red Raiders were. We expected them to finish in Big 12 play this year. So, I think in that regard, mission accomplished. Now the next game for Texas Tech will be in the Big 12 tournament. It'll be Thursday, March 12th. They will play. It looks like they're going to play Texas. As of right now, Texas and TCU haven't tipped off. They tip off later tonight. I do expect Texas to win that game. Crazier things have happened. If TCU wins, then Tech will play West Virginia. But I do expect Texas to win. Texas holds the tiebreaker over West Virginia, and Tech will play the Longhorns, which ironically, that's who Tech was going to play last year in the Big 12 tournament. Before they were warming up and they got called off the court, both teams, and all of our worlds got rocked. So here we are, fast forward a year later, and it looks like Tech's going to play the Longhorns, and Tech sweep the Longhorns this year in the regular season. So and have won. I want to make sure I get this right. I believe 7 of the last 8 games against Texas. So, I mean, on one hand, you feel like, oh, that's a really good matchup for Tech, but on the other hand, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. So that'll be interesting. The Longhorns will be gunning for the Red Raiders in that one. But in terms of Texas Tech's loss to Baylor, I feel like they actually lost by more than the final score. I mean, 88 to 73, just 15 points. They were down by, more than 20 at certain points of the game. Baylor just bombs away from 3. Teague hit, I think, 8 of 9 threes on his own. Maybe even more, felt like more. They were unconscious. I think they hit 13 or 14 threes in the game. And, and then on their own, Tech didn't really play good enough to beat the number 3 team in the country anyways. I felt like Tech was a little outclassed in certain stretches of this game. Then, Tech outplayed Baylor for certain stretches as well. So, there's some hope there. I mean, Tech started down 10-0. They were down 16-3. As soon as they got off to that bad start, you felt like they probably didn't have a chance. Now, they tied it late in the first half. They ended up down just by 2 at the break. So you're like, hey, they have a shot. But that was a tough hole once again to claw out of, and then in the second half it was much the same, where Baylor just opened the second half with a big run. They just started knocking down 3 after 3, and Tech just really couldn't keep up. So I feel like the better team won, even though Baylor was unconscious. They were making some contested threes, so they had a really good. They're one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country, so that's nothing new. But they were even exceptional today for them from deep. So that was tough. That's tough for Texas Tech. But I do feel like, at least after 2 games watching these 2 teams, that Baylor is the better team. But, hey, crazy things happen in the tournament. Depending on the matchups for both Tech and Baylor, both these teams will certainly be in the NCAA tournament. So, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm trying to think of some positives here. Kyler Edwards played very well. He had like 13 just in the first half alone. Had some good blocks, a couple good steals. I'm trying to think about who else played well. Shannon had some really nice moments, made a couple threes, had a couple nice jams. McClung was just so-so. You'd like to see him really pick it up here for postseason play, because they're going to need him. They're going to need McClung to be, the guy you saw against Iowa State, who scored 20 and was those miraculous finishes and everything. And they're going to need him to shoot well from deep. I felt like McCullough struggled from the floor as well. Santa Silva was okay. Who else? Peavy's still playing well. And I still like what you're getting from Nadolny defensively off the bench. I think he's good. That's about it, really. That's it for Texas Tech side. It was kind of not a very fun performance if you're a Red Raider fan. They're coming off a 3-game winning streak that was snapped, but this is a good Baylor team, like I said. So I don't feel terrible coming off this loss. I'm anxious to see what's going to happen in postseason play. The Big 12 tournament's one thing, but I really can't wait for them to get into the NCAA tournament, and we'll just have to see how that goes. But I know some people do really like the conference tournaments, and I completely understand that. So we'll have to see. I don't know. I feel like we always talk about, if they win 1 or 2 games, it'll really help their seeding. And then once the actual committee comes around to announcing the seeds, I don't feel like, unless somebody just makes a run from planning to play the first the first day all the way to the championship game or something, then you don't really see a big change in seeding, in my opinion, traditionally. But hey, you know what? It's been a different year, a different season. Maybe it will. They've played fewer games, so perhaps the tournament will mean more. That makes a lot of sense to me in that regard. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Bottom line is Texas Tech finished 17-9 in the regular season overall, 9-8 in conference play. Like I said, about what we figured. It's been a crazy year. A lot of the games have been so close, gut-wrenching, or euphoric, where you won some miraculous games you feel like you should, and you lost some games you definitely feel like you should have won. And I think that one interesting thing from this, and Mighty Joe pointed this out going into the final 2 games, that every matchup was a sweep, and that held true. Every matchup that Tech had in the Big 12 was a sweep, with the notable exception of TCU, because you only played them once. I think that would have been a sweep, but you swept Texas, you swept Oklahoma, you swept Kansas State, you swept Iowa State, then you beat TCU in the lone game. But then you got swept by Oklahoma State, you got swept by Kansas, you got swept by West Virginia, and you got swept by Baylor for those 8 losses. So it's really interesting. You either sweep or be swept, I guess. Sweep or be swept. Was the mantra in Big 12 play for Texas Tech this year. It was pretty interesting. Those teams really beat each other up. And there were some really close games in those sweeps going both ways. So it's just crazy. I wonder how many times that's happened for Texas Tech. Really interesting season. Like I said, I can't wait for the postseason. So with that, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.